What's up, guys? Sam Adams here, and happy 3rd birthday to the PlayStation Vita, which is turning 3 this week. It came out in 2012, and it's hard to believe that it has been 3 years since I picked this thing up from a GameStop that is now actually closed down. So, over the past 3 years, the system has been through a huge transformation, and tonight I wanted to take the time to recognize that transformation, as well as talk about the launch of the game, or the launch of the system whenever I picked the stuff up, what games I have played on it since then, and where I want the system to go as it kind of goes into its twilight stage whenever the new one is going to come along in the next couple of years. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So first off, let's talk about the launch of the PlayStation Vita. Whenever I picked mine up 3 years ago, I actually pre-ordered the $250 PlayStation Vita Wi-Fi only version, which of course only used Wi-Fi, and since I have kind of shaped my entire life around Wi-Fi accessibility, that wasn't really a problem for me. However, the guys at GameStop actually got confused and gave me the Wi-Fi and 3G version. But the 3G on the PlayStation Vita is just a little bit complicated. The first thing you should know is that it is supplied by AT&T, which doesn't have the most reliable 3G in the world. In fact, at the E3 2012 press conference, I think either E3 2011 or 2012 press conference, whenever it was announced that AT&T will be the provider for the PlayStation Vita, the crowd actually began laughing. And, that speaks volumes. So you had that combined with the fact that you had to pay a monthly fee to actually access the 3G. And I thought that it was going to be a lot like that Kindle sitting over there, where that's the Kindle keyboard with Wi-Fi and 3G, but the 3G is free and you can access it from anywhere. Of course, I suppose it's two different styles of medium, but whenever this thing was announced to have 3G, everybody got excited, and then no one used it just because you had to pay for it, and it was spotty, and it didn't work that well, and you couldn't really play online. So all of these things kind of eventually transformed into the idea that Sony would just make one version of the handheld that was Wi-Fi only, which is where we are today. But as far as launch games went, some of the best games on the PlayStation Vita came out on launch day. And tonight I'm going to be talking about two of these, Uncharted Golden Abyss and Unit 13. So we'll start off with Golden Abyss. To a lot of PlayStation gamers, it's the best entry into the Uncharted franchise just because of the way that it utilizes the front and rear touchpads of the PlayStation Vita, as well as some of the gyroscopic implements that the system was really boasting at the time of release. Because a lot of the things that Sony were pointing out about this console is the fact that it has dual analog sticks, front and rear touchpads, front and rear cameras, as well as just a whole bunch of different utilizations of all of these different, peripheral buttons and stuff. So, Uncharted Golden Abyss was the first game that I can remember that really showed off what the PlayStation Vita was capable of, as well as what we could expect in the next couple of years as games started to come out for it. That, combined with the idea or the story of Uncharted Golden Abyss, it just made for an amazing game. For a lot of you guys that play the Uncharted games, you'll know that sometimes if you don't play the previous games, you don't fully understand what's going on with the story. And Uncharted Golden Abyss is not that kind of game. If you just go and pick up the game, you automatically get into the story, you know what's going on, there aren't any, curious questions as to who this character is, why are all of these references being made. You can totally jump into the Uncharted franchise through Golden Abyss, and I think that's where a lot of people actually jumped into it at. It came out the year after Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception hit stores. And Uncharted 3 was probably one of the best games in the franchise. Generally speaking, people order them from best to worst, Uncharted 2, Uncharted 3, and then Uncharted Drake's Fortune, which of course was the first one. And then Golden Abyss is just kind of out in left field because a lot of people are hesitant to classify this. But as far as Reddit goes anyway, a lot of people like Golden Abyss, and I'm included in that kind of camp because I do think it was probably one of the best games on the PlayStation Vita to date. Of course, alongside this, you had Unit 13, which was developed by Zipper Interactive, the developers of the SOCOM series. And Unit 13 is a very interesting title because the way it plays is that, well, basically, there are 6 or 7 maps, somewhere around there, in the game. And this is obviously a pretty small number, but of course, it's a PlayStation Vita game, so you don't have a ton of memory to play with. But the way that Zipper Interactive developed this game is that for 50 different missions, you can access different portions of the map. For instance, if you have Map A here, and you have Mission 1, you can go to the right side of map A and kind of play the mission on that side of the map. And then if you get all the way down to mission 5, you might play on the left side of the map. And then there might be a giant mission where you have to run from the left side of the map, do a activity over here, go through the middle, kill some guys, then go over here and deactivate a bomb. And it's just that kind of gameplay that makes Unit 13 extremely replayable, because although all of the maps feel familiar and you do learn some of the maps after time, the way that the missions are laid out definitely provides your brain enough time to kind of reset, and you don't feel like you're playing the same map over and over again. And of course, Zipper Interactive, if you aren't aware, shut down shortly after the development of Unit 13. However, the daily challenges are still live and people still play them. In fact, I was playing Unit 13 just a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, excuse me, and it's still one of the best games on any handheld console I own to date. And both Uncharted Golden Abyss and Unit 13 were actually featured in the PlayStation Plus free games for a couple of months, but I'm not sure if they are anymore. If they aren't, they're totally worth picking up because they're probably like $10 a piece now. So if you haven't played either of these titles and you're looking for something new on your PlayStation Vita, definitely check these two out. Next up, a couple of the more recent games that I think definitely deserve an honorable mention are Killzone Mercenary and Hotline Miami, which is actually a port from a PC game to the consoles, which was then ported to the PS Vita, but it deserves to be talked about. Just hear me out here. So first off, Killzone Mercenary is my favorite entry into the Killzone franchise, and that is a pretty heavy-duty title to earn, you know. Obviously, Killzone Shadowfall is graphically gorgeous. It has a pretty good story, and the multiplayer is still updated by Guerrilla daily, and they do extremely well with the multiplayer for Shadowfall. But I think they did even better. I think Guerrilla developed this. Yes, they did, I think. Anyway, the developer of Killzone Mercenary did extremely well with the multiplayer. The story of Killzone Mercenary is great, but the multiplayer is where Mercenary really shines, because in my personal history of gaming, handhelds always seem to come up short when it comes to multiplayer sides of games, but Killzone Mercenary does an extremely great job of the weapon customization, the loadout customization, the map layout of all of these maps are absolutely gorgeous, and the damage system is absolutely great. I can't think of one thing that I would change about the Killzone Mercenary multiplayer. And if you haven't played it, I can't really describe it except that it is Killzone on a handheld. 100%. There's nothing taken away from it. The way that the melees are done is actually through the touchscreen, and that is extremely innovative, and it works really well. It takes some time to get used to, mind you, but whenever you do get used to it, it just flows. And once you pick up Killzone Mercenary and you start to play it, you just click with the control scheme, and that's something that's kind of hard to do in today's day and time. And then you've got Hotline Miami, which is another more recent title that came out in 2013, I think, for the handheld. And what this one does really well is that obviously Hotline Miami was originally on the PC, and it's very fast-paced and action-packed. So whenever you have a control system like the PlayStation Vita, it's very important to do the control scheme right, because that can be a game maker or a game destroyer as far as it comes to the gameplay. And if you want to see a larger portion of the map when you're playing Hotline Miami on the PlayStation Vita, you can actually touch the back of the PlayStation Vita, move your finger, and the map will move with it, which is extremely useful whenever you're playing Hotline Miami. And then you can actually tap on the touchscreen and mark certain enemies that you can always keep your gun trained on if you're planning on rushing a room and there's someone pointing a bazooka at the door. And these two gameplay elements and gameplay mechanics actually make the PlayStation Vita version of Hotline Miami my favorite version of Hotline Miami. Just because whenever I play it on the PlayStation 3, it doesn't have those controls, and I kind of have to change my playstyle a little bit, go a little bit slower. But with the PlayStation Vita, I can play the game as fast as possible, and if I had to choose, I would play it on the Vita. But if I, couldn't play it on the Vita, the PlayStation 4 does a really great job of using the DualShock 4's touchpad to kind of do a similar thing. And luckily for me, these are both cross-buy. So if you haven't played Hotline Miami and you have a PlayStation 4, check it out. If you have a PlayStation Vita, definitely check it out. But obviously, Killzone Mercenary and Hotline Miami are two of the best games on the system if they are being talked about here. To wrap things up, whenever the PlayStation Vita first came out, I actually had the hunch that it would be a remote play system, because whenever it first off, at launch, this was kind of towards the end of the PlayStation 3's life cycle. So we were obviously looking forward to the PlayStation 4. Everyone was anticipating that it would be announced at E3, and it was the year after that, I believe. But whenever the PlayStation 4 came out and the remote play features were shown off, I thought that it would become a remote play system where people just bought it to play their PlayStation 4s on the road or at work or wherever. But over the past 3 years, it has become something completely different, and I'm so glad it did. Because at the moment, it's kind of the JRPG system of choice, which of course is, you know, a role-playing game system. And it's used a lot for that purpose in Japan. It's used a lot for that purpose here. But I'm glad that it has its own identity because it reaches out to every gamer pretty much. You've got me, the guy that likes first-person shooters as well as action and adventure. You've got the JRPG fans. You've got the indie fans, especially. The indie games on the PlayStation Vita are insane how many there are and how well they do on the Vita. But I'm just glad that over the past 3 years, it's developed its own identity and it's not just feeding off of the PlayStation 4. Because I almost thought that they would kind of combine the PlayStation Vita and the PlayStation 4 into one thing and do a Wii U gamepad kind of bundle. And I'm thankful it didn't happen because the PlayStation Vita is a good enough piece of hardware with enough innovation that it deserves the recognition of being independent. And I think that going forward, there are a couple of things I would change, and there's only one that I'm going to really mention, and that's the memory card layout. So, if you have to buy a memory card for the PlayStation Vita, you've got 8 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, and 64 gigabytes here in the States, and then you can order one internationally with 128 gigs on it. And this is fine, except for the fact that they are Sony peripheral gaming, memory cards. So they're extremely overpriced. I think a 64 gigabyte card is about $120 if I remember correctly. And that's outrageous because with the new 3DS XL, if you snap off this back faceplate, you can actually insert your own micro SD card as big as you want, and you can get them for like $12 on Amazon. And I wish the PlayStation Vita would change to that kind of memory, because it just makes it so much more accessible to play more games and have more games on your system on the go, so you don't have to carry around chips or you don't have to carry around other memory cards. You can just automatically play it on your system. So going forward with the next generation of PlayStation Vita or the next generation of portable Sony products, I hope to see that they change the memory card peripheral only kind of thing, and I would love to see some micro SD cards utilized for this upcoming system. But other than that, I think the PlayStation Vita has a lot of potential, and I think for the next 3 to 4 years we're going to see releases for it. Only time will tell, but needless to say, I think the PlayStation Vita is going to go down in history as one of the best gaming handheld consoles that has ever seen the light of day, and I can't be happier about it. So there you guys have it. Happy 3rd birthday to the PlayStation Vita again. And there's actually a huge sale going on right now on the PlayStation Store. I would definitely go check that out. Castlevania is on sale for $7.50, which of course is a classic PSP game that is now available on the PlayStation Vita. And Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified is only $10, down from its original $50. It didn't get great reviews, but if you want a to-go Call of Duty, maybe it's one you want to check out. I probably won't. But there are a ton of games. I will link the blog post in the description down below. But of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop me a like down below and share this video. And also share your fondest PlayStation Vita memories and games down in the comments below. I would love to know what you guys have to say about this handheld console. Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent about it? Let me know down below. And of course, if you have never seen any of my other videos, please take the time to check out some of my other uploads. I do new stuff 4 days a week, and I love it when people check it out. So, I think that about wraps it up. Again, happy birthday, PlayStation Vita, and I'll talk to you all soon. Peace.